Today, we have a coaching call with Jewel. We're going to chat about fears and our mindsets and see how to overcome them. Welcome to Richer Soul, your journey to a more purposeful, intentional, amazing life. Where are you going to go and how are you going to get there? Let's figure that out together. At the core is the financial well-being to do what you want, when you want, how you want. It's about personal freedom and abundance. Today, we're going to talk with Jewel about how she can create her own personal freedom and abundance by overcoming her fears and changing her mindsets. In earlier episodes, I offered a free coaching call to people who were willing to come on the air. That offer is now over. However, I will offer a 50% discount on an initial session to anyone who signs up between now and June 30th. Over the next few weeks, you'll get to listen to some more coaching calls so you have a better idea. Today, it's Jewel. Let's meet her. Today, we have another coaching session. And with us today is Jewel, who's going to share a little bit about her life, and we're going to see how we can help her. Welcome to Richer Soul, Jewel.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I'm happy you're here today as well. And I hope we can make some changes in your life. So let's get started. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I am a 47-year-old single mom. I work as a contractor for the federal government. The company that I work for is a small company that just happened to get a really big contract, and we're actually up for recompete right now, so it's caused a little bit of stress. Back in 2009, I was laid off from my job of 6 years, and it took me 3 years to find another job. And during that time, I worked a few temp jobs here and there. But when I took a full-time job, it was the first job that came along. The pay wasn't great, but I took it just to keep my household going. Fast forward to now, I'm in a job that I don't like. I am about $230,000 in debt. And the stress that I carry between the job, helping my daughter stay in college, and just general day-to-day living it's a lot. It's taking its toll on me. It's taking its toll on my health. It's taking its toll on my mental state. It's taking its toll on everything in my life. And right now I'm just looking for a change because I don't know what to do next.
Well, we'll chat about what to do next, and we'll dig in a little bit as we explore your life a little more. So let's just take a step back. As you were growing up, can you tell us a little bit about growing up and how you grew up with money and your feelings towards money and your family's feelings?
Growing up, money wasn't discussed with kids. It just wasn't something that our parents talked to us about. So when I went off to college, I had no idea I knew what money was, but what to do with it. I didn't know how to save. I didn't know how to plan. I didn't know anything because it was never discussed. I grew up also in a single parent household. So like I said, my mom we didn't talk about it. We didn't. And I grew up watching my mom make a lot of mistakes with money. There were times where the rent wasn't paid and we had to move because we were being evicted. There were always bill collectors or just all kinds of money problems that I just witnessed with my mom growing up. My grandfather, because my grandparents were central in my upbringing, my grandfather, we always knew that he had money, but it was still something that was never discussed with us kids. So even then, the lessons of saving and investing and all those things, we just didn't learn. Those are things that I'm just starting to learn at my age.
Well, congratulations on taking that step. And congratulations for reaching out and saying, I want to be on a coaching call and learn. So few people take that small step to make a change in your life. And the fact that you've done that is phenomenal. You're ahead of so many people just by saying, I would like some help. So congratulations.
Thank you.
So just out of curiosity, have you had conversations with your daughter about money?
I have, because I learned all the wrong things. And as a result, in my early adulthood, I did all the wrong things. And I don't want her to follow in that same pattern. So I talked to her about her spending and saving some. And because she's a college student and working during the summer, to save some for when she goes back to school, to save some for those other expenses so that it's not a big struggle. And as we go on, I'm starting to teach her more about investing a little bit, IRAs and things like that, so that conversation is out there with her. You know, that conversation is out there. She knows about those things, and that at least she can come to me if she has questions about them, because I never felt that I could go to anyone with my questions.
That's wonderful that you're helping her so that she doesn't make mistakes. How do you feel now about going to people with questions about money and financial issues?
It's really hard. I'll tell you that. I'm an introvert, and I grew up in a household where, like I said, we didn't talk about those things. So as a result, I'm very private, and I'm private almost to a fault. I won't open my mouth and ask questions for anything. But now that I'm finding myself in this situation with a lot of debt, I can't be silent anymore. So I have to go forward and ask questions, even if I think the other person is going to think that I'm stupid, or, gee, she doesn't know that. I have to do it in spite of what their reaction to my questions might be.
Have you gotten reactions from people that look down at you because you asked a question, or is that just how you feel they're going to react to you?
I've had that reaction. I have someone who is a friendship that I'm reevaluating at the moment. But if I ask him a question, it's like, how did you get to this age and you didn't know that? You know, I never get to fully ask my question without him giving me the answer that he thinks I'm seeking, which really isn't the answer that I'm seeking. But the result has always been, how did you get to this age and just didn't know that? So it makes me a little shy as far as asking people questions.
So first off, you have to find the right people to ask questions. So you want people who are successful and who are well-versed to answer your questions. Sometimes when you go to people and you ask them questions, they don't want to answer you, or they do that because they themselves don't know. And they don't want to admit it, because you see how they already feel about not knowing at their age. So it doesn't always mean it's you. Many times it's them. And the reality is, they don't teach money in school. You have an MBA. I have an MBA. Did they ever teach you money in your MBA classes?
Never.
Never. So this is a problem far beyond you. It's societal, and that's the whole reason for this podcast, is to start having real conversations about money, because it seems absolutely absurd that people get MBAs and they never learned the basics that are out there. And so that's what we're going to work on and try and fix. And you're helping by having the courage to step up and do this. So thank you again for that. So let's fast forward to today. You're in a job and you don't love it. What specifically about your work is causing you grief?
It's mostly the fact that I came into this job with a lot of skills, and my office is kind of siloed. If you are supposed to handle this, then no one else can do it. No one else can grow into it. So I'm doing the same thing day after day. I don't feel that I'm growing. I don't feel challenged at all. I honestly don't see any room for growth or advancement coming. And even though I have an MBA and I went in with a bunch of computer skills, they asked me to start the project management, certification process. But even now, before I can get to take the exam, they're like, oh, well, we need you to take a class. You need to learn how to do this, or you need to learn how to do that. So to me, it just doesn't seem like they know where they're going, but they want to keep pushing me in different directions. And I'm not sure if I should go in any of them.
And so there's a certain mindset that sometimes happens in corporate America when they have people that they know will do certain amount of work and they do it well. They want to leave them there to do that work because they know it's hard for them to find somebody else. And so they prevent you from getting ahead sometimes. And it's a terrible mindset, but it's out there. So you have to realize it may not be you. Many times it's them. So there's no opportunity for a promotion into a different department or somewhere else.
No, it's not, because we are basically a small federal agency. And although right now we're in the recompete stage of our contract and a bigger company may acquire our contract, which would be a really good thing for me. But that could be months down the road. And I'm not quite sure that I have that kind of time to sit at a job that, one, isn't paying me well, and two, the job just doesn't satisfy me.
Okay. So what opportunities have you taken to look for other opportunities in the workforce?
I mean, I've just been doing my regular thing of searching different job boards. I use LinkedIn a lot, different websites. I have friends that are contractors with other companies. So I have one friend who sends me new job announcements, regularly, which I'm applying to as well. But pretty much that's about all that I get to do.
So are you not hearing back then? Or in other words, you apply and then what happens?
I apply, but I don't hear back.
Okay. So there's an entire skill set to networking to get jobs. At your level, a lot of times it's about finding the right person to talk to get the opportunity. They're probably getting hundreds of resumes, and what happens is that the people who rise to the top are the people who get recommended from someone. So having a friend in another company recommend you is one way to do that. But I wasn't clear. Are the people recommending you, or they're just telling you there's an opportunity?
I'm not sure how their process works. I know with some of the contracting companies, if your resume is submitted by someone on the inside, it moves in faster. If it comes in from the outside, it takes a lot longer for them to get to it. So they are pushing my resume through with their name attached.
Okay, so they are doing that.
Yeah.
And still no luck.
And still no luck.
Okay. Are you looking within a very small niche? Have you looked at other opportunities maybe outside of what you're currently looking at?
I just started doing that because I felt that what the area that I was looking in, I was putting myself back into the same situation. Just another admin position that goes nowhere. So I've decided recently to start branching out and looking at other positions.
Okay. So let's kind of take a little bit of a step back. Before 2008, did you have a vision for where you wanted to go?
Yes, I did.
Okay. How does that vision still hold true today? In other words, do you still believe in that same vision from back then? Or is there a different vision for today?
That vision, I don't know if it still holds true right now, because it was to move to a program manager or program director level in a nonprofit organization, which is where I had been working. And I'm finding it hard to get back into that realm after being out for so long. So it's changed a bit because now I'm in government and I'm looking to, I guess, stay within the government realm because I think it's easier when you already have that exposure.
If you had two job opportunities come up to you, one in the nonprofit and one in the government, which would you take?
Probably the nonprofit.
So that vision's still there, and it's still viable. It's just harder, correct?
Yes, it is much harder.
Okay. So one of the things, if that's what you want, then set that as your goal. That's not to say you're going to reach that goal tomorrow. But once you set that as your goal, and once you say, this is where I'm going, and once you tell the world, this is what I want, things will start to happen. Now, does that mean it's going to happen tomorrow? No. But if you're clear on what you want, you can start taking steps in a direction towards where you want to go. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense.
So, and I'm not exactly clear on the title of the job and what you would do, but if you wanted to be in that type of job, what type of people would you need to know?
I'm thinking I would need to know people who work in different nonprofits, people who work in the nonprofits, people who donate to nonprofits. Also, I guess some on the government side, because a lot of nonprofits have to do with government and legislature and things like that. So, but I think more so it needs to be people in the nonprofit realm.
How many of those people do you currently know?
Just a few that I worked with previously.
Okay. Is there a place to meet people like that?
I don't know, but I'm going to go and find out.
All right. If you want to go to that direction and be in that world, you need to start surrounding yourself with people in that world. And whether it be, an evening meeting, a nonprofit breakfast, something there's 1,000 things going on in that world. And especially in the nonprofit world, they're always looking for volunteers to work events on weekends, big charity events, right? All these nonprofits need to raise money, don't they?
Yes, they do.
They throw nice dinners all the time. I know I go to them. They have people who volunteer to work at those. What better way to get yourself in front of those kinds of people?
You're right.
Once you're in front of them, you need to start. You need to be the person you are meant to be. And you may not feel it right now, but I can bet that you could probably fake being that person until you are that person. And if you walk with the confidence and the knowledge that that is the person you are going to be, people who don't know you, because none of these people know you, are just going to assume that you are that person. And they know you have an MBA and you've had experience. And so you just need a good story to tell them.
Okay. I never thought of that.
Another thing you can do is, since you are not in the world, you're familiar with LinkedIn, you said you reach out to some people on that. I would reach out to some people in this world who are at a pretty high level. And I would just simply say, hey, I'm Jewel. I was in this space. The economy tanked. I got out, but I've always wanted to get back into the space. I'd love to just have coffee with you for a few minutes, learn what's going on, understand what the trends are and what people are looking for. Would you have a few minutes for coffee? So you're not asking for a job. All you're doing is asking for someone to share knowledge with you. And when you get these people, like if you reach out to 10 people, 3 or 4 of them may say yes. And when they do, just go in and ask them their story. How did you get to where you are? Let them talk for the majority of the time. And towards the end, just say, hey, I'm trying to get back in. What advice do you have for me? Again, you're not asking for a job. You're just asking for coffee and a conversation. Is that something you can do?
It's something I can make myself do.
It's hard. The first time you send that email or make that request and someone turns you down, it's disappointing. It's hard. And I know that. However, they're not turning you down. You just have to realize that. They may be busy. They might have 100 things on their calendar. Their world might be falling apart. All you can do is what you can do. You have to put yourself out there. You're going to have to take a risk. But what's the risk of sending an email and asking for coffee? What's the worst thing that can happen?
The worst thing is they don't have time and you just move on to the next person.
That's the worst thing that can happen. I talk about leaping with a parachute. That's not a very risky move, is it?
No, it's not.
How much does it cost you?
It doesn't cost me anything to do it.
There you go. The more you put yourself in front of the people you want to be, even if you go to these coffee meetings and say, hey, I'm looking to volunteer in your charity, who should I talk to? I'd like to help you at one of your events. It makes them even more interested to say, oh, someone's willing to do work for us, because no one wants to show up and do work. They're the magic words that kind of get you in the door. And then you go show them how great you are. And then they all go, we want this person on our team.
I think I can do that.
So you have a handful of people that are your friends already in the business, correct?
Yes.
Could you reach out to them and ask them if they know somebody that you could have coffee with?
That I can do.
So let's start with some warm introductions, right?
Yeah.
When you meet these people, ask them if there's somebody you can meet with. Another warm introduction. Again, we're not looking for jobs. We're just going out and meeting people at this point. Very low risk. No one's really turning you down. It gives you a comfortable, natural way to get in front of people. Tell them what your story is and what you'd love to do. And the more the people tell you, you'll be surprised when one person who knows another person says, oh, I just met this wonderful person. And you're looking for someone to do that role. That's what she wants to do. Let me give you her card. Now, this process might take 6 months or a year. Which is time consuming. Do you have any other ideas of things you'd like to try in the meantime?
I'm not sure. I've worked in so many different parts of things. I do office administration. I've done budget management. I do some computer things. So I think I can reach out to people in all of those areas, because even with the office administration, that level, office administration sometimes goes to a higher level. And I think that after a while back, I thought maybe that's where I should go. I have all these years in an office just doing just general management things. why not try to go at it to a higher level? The only issue is that type of position has a different name in every organization. So finding it is a bit hard.
You mean the person or the job title?
Well, the job title and also the person.
I wouldn't worry about the job title. I'd worry more about the people and your story that you tell them.
Okay.
Because if it's different everywhere, what difference does it make what the title is? If you can connect to the top people in the charity, that's more the important thing. And usually the top people in the charity are always at charity events.
Yeah, that's very true.
You know this world, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
So knowing what you know of this world, what else can you possibly do?
We're here in DC. I know a lot of charities, just a lot of nonprofits do their charity walks, and they are always looking for volunteers, and that is a good way. We're actually coming into the charity walk season because the weather's warmed up, where they're always looking for volunteers to help staff it and to man it, and that might be a good way to get in and meet some people just in various nonprofits in the area.
Absolutely. And if they're looking for some well-spoken people who can handle their VIPs, that's a really good volunteer position.
Yeah, that is. Because if you do it well, they'll remember your name.
There you go.
If you do it well, they will remember you.
Can you do it well?
Yes, I can.
There you go. What else can you do?
I don't know. I hadn't given it much thought before. Fundraising, the walks. I think the first thing I need to do is actually get out and meet people. I mean, I think that's probably my biggest problem right there. I've kind of siloed myself. So, what else can I do? I can network through friends. I can volunteer. I don't know what else I can do right now.
All right. We do have a handful of steps. You're going to reach out to people, set up some coffee meetings. You're going to volunteer at a few charity events, and you're going to see what happens. And you're going to reach out to some friends. That gives you your first step in the direction you want to go. And don't be afraid to tell people what you want. If you don't tell them what you want, they can't help you get it.
Okay, it's also a big issue for me. I never tell people what I want.
And if you don't tell them, how will they know to give it to you?
They won't know.
And they may not be the ones to give it to you. A lot of times what happens is you tell someone and they have nothing to do with it, and 3 weeks later someone else says, I'm looking for this. And they go, I know who does that. And the call comes 3 weeks later. How comfortable do you feel taking these next couple of steps?
Honestly, all of it pushes me outside of my comfort zone, and that was one of my goals for the year, was to step outside of my comfort zone. So even though it frightens me a little bit, I'm going to push myself to do it.
So let's talk about that. What frightens you about this?
I don't know. I've never been a person who, I've never been a great conversationalist.
You're having a
I've just
great
I've never
conversation now.
I've never been that person. I've never been the one to just come in a room and gather all the attention. That's just, I've always been the one that kind of backs away and is usually forgotten.
So, all right. I'm an introvert too, so I get it. Don't try and walk into a room and be the center of attention. Walk into the corner of the room and talk to the one person who's sitting there as well. The other shy introvert who happens to be in charge of something. Just go meet all the other shy introverts in the room. They will love you because they feel the same way you feel.
Okay, I can do that.
Now, there are social skills you can learn to make yourself become a little bit more extroverted. But let's just take one step at a time. What other fears do you have for doing this?
There's always the fear that people will say no. There's always the fear that I won't do as well as people have expected me to. I haven't lived up to the expectation. There's always the fear that I will make a mistake, and unfortunately in my where I work in my office, it's never you can make it, mistakes just don't happen. You can't make a mistake. If you make a mistake, it's a big issue, it's a big problem. So it's always that fear of making a mistake. So that's been ingrained in me for almost 5 years. You can't make a mistake, but so it's hard to get out there in front of people because you're always worried, oh dear God, am I going to make a mistake?
Do people make mistakes where you work?
I'm sure that they do. I mean, it's just we're human. People make mistakes.
Absolutely. So let's just assume we're going to make mistakes. We're not going to live up to someone's expectations, and we're going to screw up. That happens. Now the question is, what do we do next? Do we let that prevent us from what our goals and our dreams and our desires are? Or do we say, you know what? I made a mistake and this is why it happened. I'm going to try not to do that again. And I learned something and I'm going to go apologize. Because how many people actually apologize and say, I made a mistake? I take responsibility.
Very few.
Very few. And if you're the CEO of a major corporation and somebody does that, do you know who they want on their team?
The one who stood up and took accountability for their mistake.
Absolutely. And I know you're that person. You have this all within you. So, how comfortable are you in taking these steps now?
I'm still a little afraid.
Okay.
But I can go forward and do it. I can push myself out there to do it.
I believe you can. And let's just say that someone says no or you fail. What are you going to do next?
I'm going to move on to the next person. I'm just going to keep going.
That's it. One step at a time. You just keep going. And don't look back. Are there any other fears we need to address?
No, I don't think so. I think a lot of what's held me back for the past several years is just the fear of not meeting expectations, of making a mistake and everything just crashing down because I made a, there was one mistake.
Does that usually happen?
It's happened a few times. It hasn't happened every time. And it's only because the reaction to it's the reaction and not the actual mistake. Sometimes you can make a small mistake and other people blow it to be huge when really it's minor. We just move that one to the side and we pull one up from over here and we keep going. But I mean, that's just been the environment that I've been in, and I have to force myself to think a little differently because I really work for someone who will tell you can do something 99 times. Out of that 99, there could have been one time that it went wrong. It may not have been your fault. It may not have been, it just things happen. But in every conversation, you're reminded of that one time that it didn't go right. And I have to kind of force myself and to focus on the 98 times that it did go right, because it grates on you to hear that one time.
It does. And it sounds like you're in an environment that's not supportive. And so the faster you can change that, the better off you're going to be. And just so you know, if you played a sport and you were on 98% of the time, every time you got up at bat, you hit 98% of the time, or when you threw a basket, you hit 98% of the time, or when you threw a pass, you hit the target 98% of the time, it would just be unbelievable. It doesn't happen. That's an unreasonable expectation. Baseball players are great if they can hit 1 out of 3. And you're batting 98.
No, I never thought of it that way. I never thought of it that way.
A lot of this stuff is just shifting your mindset. Fear is a mindset. Abundance is a mindset. Looking at a situation slightly different is all about mindsets. Nothing changed except the way we looked at something. There's a saying that goes, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. You can choose your reactions. You can't choose other people's reactions, but you can choose yours. That's what you have control of.
It's true.
Are you a little bit more comfortable with your fears now?
I am a lot more comfortable with my fears right now.
Do you have any kind of support system you can think of that when you have to face these fears will help you through them?
I do. I have a few friends and a few family members that can help me. They help me to turn things around and look at it in a different way.
There you go. So build your bench. Build your team who's going to help you in that moment. So when that moment comes, don't think, speed dial. Do you have a church group or something similar?
Not right now, I don't. Actually, church is something that and I really hate to say it this way, it's been on my to-do list for the past couple of weeks. I've missed going for the past couple of weeks because I've felt the need to go in and be there.
And that's fine. It's another support system for you.
That it is.
So let's look a little bit forward. If we sat down 3 years from now, what has to happen for you personally, professionally, and financially for you to be satisfied with your progress?
Oh, I think financially, I'll be satisfied with my progress when I'm earning enough to meet my needs, just my basic needs, just my, being able to pay the living expenses and those things that if when I get to that point, I can at least be happy somewhat. I mean, I'm not comfortable. That's not where I want to stay, but I know that once I get there, I'm better off than I was before.
Okay.
And I'm looking at small steps. I'm not looking at the full big picture. And I think that may be part of my issue too, is that I'm looking at the really small steps and not the whole big picture.
So it's kind of twofold. One, we know where we're going, but more importantly, what's the step I can take today and how can I work on that? And so it's okay to take the small steps. That's what you need to do. Small steps add up to massive success. What about professionally and personally?
Professionally, I want to be in a position where I feel like I have a role and a purpose, because that's something that I don't feel that I have right now. I don't have a real purpose in my office. I don't have a real role. So when I feel like I'm actually needed for something, I'm contributing to something, for me that's a big win. If I'm helping someone, even if it's a government program, but if I feel like I'm contributing to what makes this place run, for me that's a big issue.
Is there a certain charity that you're more favorable to, that you see your role and purpose with?
Not yet.
Okay, that's fine.
Not yet. Yeah, I haven't really. I don't know enough of any of the other ones to know if I feel comfortable there, if I feel like there's a place for me. But I know that right now I don't feel like I have much of a purpose, and having a purpose when I go to work is something that's important to me.
Okay. And personally?
Personally, I don't know that one just yet. My personal life has been so dependent on my professional and my financial life. And I feel that when those two get into sync, the personal life will kind of fall into sync as well. Because personally, I want to be comfortable with myself. I want to be happy with myself. I want to feel like at the end of the day, I've done all that I can do. And a lot of days I don't feel that way.
All right. So do you know how much more you need to earn to hit your basic needs?
I'm working on that number because I was looking at one formula, but when I started using, your cash flow statement and things like that, it made me think a little bit more. And actually I was on the train coming home, so I couldn't pull all my papers out. But after we end this call, I'm actually going to sit and I have an idea of where I need to be. but I know I'm not there yet, but I just want to make sure that I'm clear on actually where I need to be.
Okay. And the sheet that you used was one of the early ones. There's actually an error in the top part of it, I think. It's not pulling your income numbers across properly. So you can
Yeah.
either re-download it or just double check the math in it.
Actually, before I left work today, I looked at it and I thought, "Oh no, that's not right." So I tweaked it and fixed the math on it.
Okay. And the whole purpose of doing this is so once we know where we're at and where we want to go, then that gives us a goal to hit.
Okay, I have an idea of where I want to go. I think I need to take some quiet time and kind of focus on it a little bit more.
That's fine.
And for me, I have to put things down in writing because once I put it in writing, it's the thought comes out and it becomes more real. If I don't bring the thought out onto paper, it'll just kind of float around in my head and keep me up all night because I didn't get it out. So yeah, I have to put my thoughts out that way.
And I was going to suggest the same thing. So that's a perfect idea. Write down your goals so you know what they are. Once you see them and you commit to them, things start moving towards them.
Yeah, I'm looking at all the things that I wrote down, and I have ideas of of just small steps that I can take. I think part of my issue is I've tried to do too much. I've tried to take on too many tasks and never get anything done. Or everything just kind of falls apart because I'm trying to take too many steps at one time.
Then slow down and make sure you accomplish the steps you need to take. If it takes you a little longer, it takes you a little longer.
Yeah, that's something I have to get through my head, is that it may take a little longer.
Do you feel anything else is holding you back from the success you want?
A lot of it is my fears. I mean, there are financial issues I think that are the money flow. It keeps me from doing some of the things that I want. Like I can't start a small business because I don't have a discretionary income, so I can't use part of anything to start a small business. But that's another. I have to look at some small steps to get started. I think a lot of it is the people that I have surrounded myself with.
In what sense?
Some people they'll push their fears off on you. For example, I want to start this business. Well, I really wouldn't start it right now because this could go wrong or that could go wrong. Well, everything could go wrong. And it could go right. But if I'm always around the people who are pushing their fears off on other people, it adds more fears to what you already have because you're even more afraid to move. So I think it's time to kind of get out and meet some new people, get around people that are going in the direction that I want to go.
You are the average of the 5 people around you, so pick 5 good people to be around. There's probably entrepreneur groups in your area. There's online groups. I know you're part of one.
Yeah, I'm a part of several, and I think while I have a lot of interest, I have to distinguish between potential businesses and hobbies, because not every hobby can be a business, and focus more on the business and a little less on the hobby end, because I think I have a lot I got a lot of information coming in, and it's all getting crossed. If that makes sense.
It does. You need to focus. You can't, if you're looking for 5 different things, you're not going to accomplish any of them. If you pick one and run with it until you know it's no longer viable, you'll at least have success in that one area. And it sounds like you've got the ability to find people to surround yourself with who will promote you.
I do. I just have to make myself get out there, be around these people.
So at this point, what do you think, what will prevent you from moving forward?
Right now, I think the things that prevents me from moving forward is taking on too much or trying to do too many things at one time, because there's no focus when I do that. And I recognize that now.
So out of the things we've talked about, are there 1 or 2 that you are clear on focusing on at this point, or do you still need to think about it and become clearer?
Well, with this conversation, I actually see that going back toward the nonprofit is where I want to be. And I can come up, I have some clear steps that I can follow to get back in that realm. So I'm clear on where I want to go professionally. And I'm learning where I want to go financially. Well, I know where I want to go financially. Where's my pen? I know where I want to go financially. So I think personally, for me personally, I just I'll let the personal life, I figure that out later. Because my personal life, there's not a whole lot going on right now. My daughter is a college student. She doesn't need me to be home every day. So that part I can figure out as I go along. But I think financially and just professionally, I'm kind of clear on where I want to go at this point.
All right. Do you have any concerns, or how doable is this for you at this point?
I think all of this is doable. I just have to remember to take small steps.
Okay.
I think all of this is very doable.
And you wrote down your steps, correct?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
I've been taking notes this entire conversation.
How do you feel now?
I feel somewhat calm right now. I mean, most of the day I've had like a lot of anxiety. But right now I feel calm. I feel like I can do this. And I know that I definitely need to slow down and focus. I have to do that. I have to slow down and focus and just pay attention to where I'm going and what I'm doing. Because when I run around all the time like a chicken with my head cut off. I'm in different directions all day, every day. But I do know now that I've got to slow down. I've got to focus. I've got to do it.
And that's something that I think comes across in every conversation I have. That same concept. I just reached out to someone who teaches people how to be in the moment. We're going to get a podcast with her because I think it's going to help all of us to slow down, be in the moment, and focus.
That would be great because that's something I really need to listen to. I need to hear that.
How else can I serve you today?
Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I honestly feel like my focus has shifted because prior to this call, the only thing that was on my mind is the financial stress. Well, the financial stress is part of it, but I feel like if I make the changes that I need to make, if I can just focus and do the things that I need to do, I can shift my focus from just all of that into where I want to go. And I can move toward where I want to go instead of staying where I am. Because I feel like I'm focusing on that so much that that's all I'm getting. I'm focusing on that stress and I'm getting more stress. And now I feel like I have the tools to look at the situation differently, look at where I want to go so that I can get to where I want to go.
And once you get there, the financial stuff is going to work itself out, isn't it?
I think so. I definitely think so. I think it's just a symptom of, it's a small piece of it, but it's a symptom of not knowing where I wanted to go, not having any direction, not having any focus.
Do you have a clear enough focus at this point, or do we need to dig in deeper?
I think I have a clear enough focus. I'm looking over my notes here because I didn't come into this with a set of questions, because I wanted to see where the conversation took us instead of focusing on directing it to questions, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
I wanted to try to get as much from this process as I possibly could. And I didn't have a clue as to how to set a direction. I didn't have a clue as to even what small steps to take, or what steps to take at all.
And you now have clarity on all of that.
I have some clarity. Yes, I do.
Okay. Is there anything else we need to discuss today?
Not that I can think of, no.
All right. I think you now know what you want. You know what direction you're going. You've got your first few steps in getting in that direction. Let me know how it goes.
I will definitely do that.
And as you hit those steps, I can give you, and we can chat about the next steps that you need to take after that. Because this is just, it's one step on a journey. And as you start to accomplish these steps, you may find more steps that need to be taken, and we can get you some clarity around those as well.
Okay. Well, that I will definitely do.
Fair enough. I'm glad we could help you today. Thank you for being a guest.
Thank you so very much. Thank you for having me.
Today, Jewel was able to address her fears and set forth a plan that will allow her to achieve the success she desires. She's ready to face the fears, and she has changed her mindset and is creating a new support system. We wish her success. Thanks for listening, and have a nice day.